I was the mom who looked like she had it all. I had 5 beautiful kids, I had a wonderful husband, I had the perfect life. What I didn't show was what was going on behind the scenes. A rapid descent into alcohol addiction. I used alcohol to self-medicate, to de-stress.
I got to the point where I had made wine kind of my reward. So, when I'm cooking in the kitchen, I would say I'm just going to have a little bit, and a little bit turns into half the bottle. Once everybody clears the table, I would go back and finish it.
I had a lot of resentments. Being a stay-at-home mom is pretty much a thankless job in my experience. I really felt like I didn't have an identity anymore, felt overlooked, just a bunch of feelings that I wanted to detach from. Alcohol helped me to do that.
I know a lot of other moms drank every single night. And then the jokes, the memes, all those things kind of just helped me justify how much I was drinking and make it okay even when I knew it wasn't.
I almost ruined my marriage. I got a DUI, got in trouble with the law, had health problems, finally ended with a suicide attempt, but that didn't actually end it.
Alcohol was starting to be more important than everything and everybody else in my life.
I was driving to pick my kids up from school, as I had many times, got pulled over on the main artery through town.
So I went to jail, and I would say that was my rock bottom moment. And I decided that I was gonna have to try and get sober.
Finally, one day I woke up hungover as usual in bed, and my husband was downstairs with the kids, and I heard commotion. I heard the world going on without me. And it was just this overwhelming sense of, you're gonna keep drinking until you die and you're gone. At that point, I'm like, this has to be it. And so I sought help.
Wow. Well, Emily is the founder of the Sober Mom Squad. I feel like I know you by just first name, Emily, after seeing that. She joins us from Seattle. Kirsten Walker, founder of Sober Brown Girls, is in Chesterfield, Virginia. And author Amy Liz Harrison joins us from Bellevue, Washington. Thank you all for joining. I have to tell you, Emily, I was about to just call you by your first name because I feel like this intimate side of all of you just brought me in to your stories, into your credit sharing this. Emily, you mentioned the moment when there you are upstairs, you're hungover in bed, and life was going on without you. The family was moving forward without you. Gosh, I cannot imagine that hurt, because it's not supposed to go on without mom. And there they were going on without you.
Yeah, I think for a long time I was keeping it all together, and I thought that everything was going great. And despite having consequences, I really thought I was holding it together at home. And for some reason, just hearing that things were going on without me, and it was like I was just slowly taking myself out of the equation. It was just enough finally to wake me up.
Kirsten, I think a lot of women, a lot of moms can relate to your routine. You love to cook. I love to cook. You open a bottle of wine because that's what they do on the cookie shows. Like, you're going to cook and you're eating, and before you know it, you have this creep-in factor where you don't realize how much you've consumed.
Exactly. And that's exactly what started to happen with me. It was very much, almost felt like it was overnight. It was maybe a glass of wine or two while I was cooking, and then it got to be a whole bottle of wine by the end of the night.
Again, it's a coping mechanism, but for women especially, we see it as a way to unwind. All of the memes, I'm going to get in a tub, I'm going to have a glass of wine. It's to unwind. Is that the feeling, Kirsten, that you were getting out of it, that you're unwinding, you're owed this?
Exactly. I looked at it as it being my treat for the end of the day. I made it. Everybody is safe and sound, and everybody is healthy and fine, and I deserve this because I've had a hard day. And that's, I fell into the Mobby wine culture. So I was with these group of women, and we were all in the same accord. We are winding down. We deserve this.
Amy, I got to tell you, when you talked about your experience, and I know that it ended up with Child Protective Services showing up at your house after that DUI arrest, while you were picking up your kids from school. My heart just breaks for you because I know that to talk about this on national TV is not easy. Folks judge, and I want this show to be a safe space, as we like to say in 2021, that you can share a story like that When you relive that experience for yourself, what does it feel like now through these fresh eyes?
It's actually so interesting because I know it was me. I was there. I did it. I felt the pain. I remember that pain, but it almost seems like a different person now because so much has changed and I've changed, and it just feels like it was somebody else.
And you struggled to admit, you talked about ego keeping you from admitting that there was a problem. Were you having that back and forth conversation in your head? Okay, you're drinking too much. No, you're not. You're fine. I mean, what was that back and forth with yourself like?
Totally. I did all the online quizzes, and, you know, I tried a few different programs and ordered some vitamins and some hypnosis. And it was kind of my secret fear was that I was an alcoholic. And I just thought, how would I even, what would I do if I were an alcoholic? So I tried to, in a sense, keep it at bay, and it was unsuccessful.
Emily, let's talk about how we as women especially talk about alcohol in a different way, I think, than men. I mean, like you said, it's one of those, oof, I needed the wine to knock off the edge, or a reward. I don't want to generalize, but I don't know how many men come home and say, I just need to reward myself with this beer so I can decompress. We use a different language when talking about the mommy wine culture, Emily.
Yeah, and I think in a way, the alcohol industry has really embraced this idea that women, it's almost turned into this women's liberation. I'm strong and I can drink like the boys. And it can be really devastating because alcohol affects women a lot differently. And, you know, for a man and a woman the same size, it's going to affect them differently. It damages our livers more, so many different reasons that it's more damaging to women. And it's almost meant as like the finish line at the end of the day. Like, I get to do this for myself. I get to take the edge off. And we ignore the actual science that, you know, alcohol actually increases anxiety. It actually increases the things that make us feel stressed. It disconnects us. It doesn't connect us. So the things we use it for aren't the reality of what we're getting out of it. And we just ignore it for the sake of togetherness or womanhood or whatever we chalk it up to.
Kirsten, you know, listen, I had to do some thinking myself when we were preparing for this show. And I remember hosting Cosmo parties, you know, all built around one of our favorite shows back then, and just having these cocktail nights. And it never occurred to me that any of my friends might be struggling, or that I might myself one day be struggling, because it's just supposed to be fun for us. It's a Cosmo night. What's the big deal?
Yeah, and I agree with that. I too have, you know, had different parties, and you just you don't know other people's stories. You don't know the things that they're struggling with. So I try my best to really have activities that don't necessarily involve drinking, of course, now that I don't drink, but it really forces us to really think outside the box with our friends and really think about different activities we can do.
Amy, you've been in recovery the longest. It'll be, 10 years in April. Congratulations to you. Again, going back to the world we're in, so much of this release we believe we deserve, it's supposed to help us be better moms. I mean, you're drinking to knock the edge off so you can relax. I'm owed this at the end of the day. And the very people we think we're helping, we end up hurting when they see this. And your children saw a lot of this firsthand. How have you explained it to them?
Well, they've been so amazingly supportive and resilient. Our conversations around it are bizarre. And what I mean by that is they, first of all, don't even remember anything super negative. My oldest, of course, does remember the DUI, going home with the neighbor, all of that. And they all remember hanging out in the cul-de-sac and playing with the other kids while we were drinking. The neighbors were all together drinking. But it's just been a very open conversation in our house. And I'm grateful for that. I feel like it's actually a catalyst and an avenue to connect with my kids in a way that I wouldn't be able to have otherwise.
Kirsten, you tapped into a particular support group for women of color, brown women, because of the statistics and your concerns specifically related to women like the two of us.
Absolutely. One of the first things that I noticed when I started my sober journey and I was looking for other women is I didn't see a lot of women that looked like me. And that really was concerning to me as a Black woman. Representation, it absolutely matters. So it's very important to me to create this space, a safe place for not just women, but especially women of color who may be struggling with their dependency on alcohol.
And Amy, you have a memoir about your sobriety journey. It's coming out this spring. Congratulations. It's called Eternally Expecting. A mom of 8 gives birth to a whole new life, her own. And I got to tell you, the minute I saw you had 8 children, people are like, okay, no wonder, because you need this to relax. But you are proof you don't with 8 children. But this memoir, it's just compelling from your point of view.
Thank you so much. Yeah. In fact, it's interesting. It never dawned on me until the start of the pandemic, and I actually had some time to sit down and write it, the parallels between pregnancy and birth and getting sober, and just contractions, and even all the way up to the last chapter being after birth, and getting rid of the behaviors that no longer serve us in sobriety.
Well, it's an interesting comparison, giving birth in sobriety. I can tell you giving birth was hard, so I now know much more about fighting for sobriety based on what you told me. I can tell you what, you all have kept a smile on your face and a positive outlook on this, which is the intention of this show. We didn't want people to feel that they would be judged or that it had to be a conversation that included pain. Because at the end of the day, there is help, and you've all proven that. Thank you so much. We greatly appreciate your time today.
Thank you for having us.